Old school DJ controllers for the iPad. I'm DJ Spiegel Spin, and in this video I'm going to show you 3 of my favorite old school DJ controllers. Whether it's cars or video games or DJ controllers, some of the old school versions were simply better than the new ones. They simply don't make them like they used to. So in this video, I'm going to show you guys 3 of my favorite older DJ controllers that I still use and I would still recommend getting. So let's start off with the one that I still have, and that is this. This is the Vestax Spin controller, and this is pretty much what started it all for iPad-specific DJ controllers. This controller was actually released in 2012, and it was available in the Apple Store, so the actual Apple Store sold this. This was designed to be more of an Apple accessory, more of an iPad add-on than it was to be a professional DJ controller. But the features that they had in it are better than some of the features in the new controllers for the iPad and DJ Pro AI. So first of all, the build quality it's solid. It doesn't feel very plasticky. It's kind of metallic, and these jog wheel covers are actually made out of metal. It's cold and it's made out of metal. This one I got on, I think it was either Facebook Marketplace or Macari, and I didn't realize that it was missing one of these. It was actually missing the crossfader, the knob for the crossfader, but I just put one of the gain ones down here because the crossfader I use more than the gain control. So it gave you this 3-band EQ up here and the gain control. This was really the only controller where they put the EQs up here, which was kind of weird, kind of different. It doesn't really look like most DJ controllers. It basically does look like just like an Apple accessory, and it's just really cool. They were able to fit a microphone import. If you look over here, you were able to connect a microphone and control the volume of the microphone. They had this kind of video game style song selector, which I always thought was really cool. And overall, it was a great controller. This was the first DJ controller that I used with DJ Pro on the iPad, and I just fell in love with it instantly, and I'm really happy that I was able to find one used and then get myself one. And I use it all the time, and it still works great, and they just don't make them like they used to. I have the Reloop Buddy controller, which is one of the newer controllers for DJ Pro and the iPad, and they didn't put a microphone port in it, and the build quality is kind of plasticky and a little bit cheap compared to this. And this is a heavy duty controller, and hopefully it'll last a very long time. Now let's go to my next favorite controller. Unfortunately, when I moved to Florida, I had to downsize, so I sold it, but I'm just going to show you some of the pictures and talk about why I think it's great. So it's this monstrosity. This is the Numark DJ Pro. So when I found out this was coming out back in 2014, 2015, I was super excited. It was when I was first getting really serious about DJing with the iPad. And I just thought it was the coolest thing ever that instead of putting the iPad on a stand, instead of having the controller and the iPad, they actually had you put the iPad in the middle of the controller. So just by looking at this, if you didn't realize that there was an iPad in the middle, it's basically a standalone controller. So there'll be no laptop, no iPad sticking out. It's all in one unit. And you slid the iPad in vertically, and then you were able to use the effects on the screen. You were really able to use everything in the vertical, in the portrait version of DJ Pro. And it kind of had, if you look at this in the middle over here, it had like its own version. Once you plug it in the controller, it had like a specific portrait version of the app for this controller where you could do the touchscreen effects and you could see your jog wheels. And overall, this was designed to be a very professional, the most professional controller you could get for the iPad. And it had some quirks and some weird things about it, like it's probably the only controller that had these rotary knobs at the bottom. Most controllers have like this one, which is the sliders for the volume, which is good for EDM. When you're mixing, you could slide the volumes, you could switch them out and do all that. These rotary volume controls were kind of awkward, kind of hard to use, especially with EDM music. With hip hop, it was better. You could fade stuff in, fade stuff out, and it just made it look really cool, look different and weird, and it didn't work the best, but that's the volume controllers that they gave us. The jog wheels were really big and really professional feeling. You were able to connect the microphone. You were even able to change the pitch of the microphone. You had loopers. They gave you a filter up here, and then you had this was another controller where because the iPad was in the middle and you couldn't have a traditional mixer with your lows, mids, and highs. If you could see in this picture where my mouse is pointed, this was the lows, this was the mids, and this was the highs. So they were all the way up to the top right. And then you were able to do effects and the parameters, and the build quality was great. It was metal. This was a pretty expensive controller at the time. It was around $500. And the reason why I stopped using it, and the reason why why you can't really use it that well today, is because it was designed for the iPad with the 13 pin connection. So not this connection that is for the new iPhones, which is the Lightning connection. And then the new iPads, when it switched over to this connection, you were able to still use this controller with an adapter. You would just get the 13 pin adapter, or whatever it was called, adapter, into the Lightning, and then it still worked. But then the iPad switched to USB-C connection. So now you would have to have an adapter from the 13 pin to the Lightning and then to the USB-C, and I was not able to find any adapters that this worked with. I wasn't able to plug in my new iPad, so that's why I sold this controller, because I couldn't really use it. I didn't want to use it with an older iPad, and this was released in, I think, 2015, and overall, it was the most professional controller you could get for the iPad. It was really awesome, and I'm hoping that they'll make a new one. A Numark will make a second version of this controller that will fit the new iPad, and you'll be able to connect the iPad into it. It's kind of hard because Apple releases so many products, so many iPads, and the sizes and shapes and chargers change. So it was really cool that they made this controller, but it really was not sustainable. And as much as I want them to make another one, I don't think they actually will. Now, another one, this is a classic DJ Pro and iPad controller. This is the Reloop Beatpad 2. And if you guys used the DJ app in DJ 2, you were able to go over here. I don't know if you could do it anymore, but there was a DJ school. Yeah, I don't think you could do it anymore. And then in the new version of the app, they got rid of it, and then they put this DJ school. But there was a scratch course that taught you how to scratch. That's how I learned how to scratch. It was built into the app, and then it would bring you to a YouTube set of YouTube videos, and it taught you the baby scratch all the way to the more advanced scratches. And in that video, they were using this controller. This is one of the best DJ controllers for scratching. It is still used today. It still works perfectly, and it was one of the first controllers that had the built-in iPad stand, that so you could have the controller and then the iPad on the stand. And then the jog wheels were great. You had the 4-band EQ with filter, lows, mids, and highs. You had 8 pads that were on top instead of on bottom. Most new controllers have the pads on the bottom, but with the pads on the top, it made it cool for using the sample, for scratching and then hitting samples. It was a professional controller with professional connections. You could plug in your headphones. You could plug in the mic, control it. The buttons were RGB. You could change the colors. If you use this with the new version of the app, every cue point you set, you could change the colors. The build quality was great. The tempo sliders are really, really large for the size of the controller. And it was overall a great controller specifically made for DJ Pro and the iPad, and Reloop hasn't made a second one. They made the Mixon 4, which is kind of a bigger version with 4 decks, which is also a great controller, but I think that this is one of the best controllers that Reloop made, and probably one of the best controllers for the iPad. So if you guys think I left out any good iPad DJ controllers from way back, or if you have any suggestions, let me know in the comments. Let me know also if you want me to make another version, a part 2 version of this video, and show you guys some more old school controllers. And if you like learning about DJ Pro and the iPad, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.